I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Algeria, who will be the last speaker today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me extend my thanks to the distinguished briefers for their insightful presentations. We wish at the outset to pay tribute to all peacekeepers for their heavy sacrifices to maintain international peace and security. The UN peacekeeping operations represent a central component of the international peace effort. However, with the evolving nature of threats and the current security landscape, these operations are showing their limitations due to several considerations. Among these considerations, there are mandate settings that are lacking a much-needed robust posture. We seize this occasion to voice our support for the recommendations made by the Secretary General through the Action for Peace and the A4P+. We also take good note of the recently published report on the future of peacekeeping and look forward to the discussions to be held during the upcoming Peacekeeping Ministerial in Berlin in May 2025. In this regard, we believe that the discussions on strengthening peacekeeping should tackle the following points. First, there is a need to design adaptable and achievable mandates that provide clear strategic directions for UN peacekeeping operations. Strategic directions based on the realities, priorities, and conditions on the ground. The UN Security Council resolutions related to mandate renewal of UN missions need to be streamlined. They should take on board the essence of previous resolutions and the historical background on the matter discussed, without exclusion or biased selectivity. Second, it is necessary to include from the onset of the mission clear elements that set out the transition processes and sequenced exit strategy while preserving security gains. Any exit strategy must be based on realistic and implementable benchmarks. This element will provide the international community and the host governments in relevant settings with the required visibility. Third, cooperation with the host governments in relevant settings needs to be further strengthened in accordance with the relevant legal frameworks. It must ensure the UN's full adherence to the national priorities as well as the core objective of the peace process. In a conflict situation, the relation with all parties has to be balanced and fair. This constitutes an essential prerequisite for the legitimacy of the peacekeeping operation. Fourth, the mandate of the peacekeeping missions must include a human rights component to monitor the situation of human rights on the ground and to report violations in conflict settings. Without such a tool, the mission's presence on the ground will lack legitimacy and credibility. In this regard, the case of the UN mission for the organization of a referendum in Western Sahara, MINURSO, represent an anomaly that must be addressed by the international community to report on the worrying situation of human rights in the occupied territories of Western Sahara. MINURSO stands as the only operation that does not have such mandate among all the UN peace operations deployed in Africa. While some member states, particularly in the Security Council, do not miss any occasion to lecture others about the importance of reporting and monitoring human rights violations everywhere, they appear to succumb to double standards with regard to the situation of human rights in Western Sahara. Fifth, fostering partnerships with regional and sub-regional organizations is essential. As mentioned by the high-level independent panel on peace operations 9 years ago, the UN cannot face the multidimensional nature of threats alone. The African Union is therefore a reliable partner in this endeavor. The adoption of Resolution 2719 represented an important milestone. However, its implementation must be based on a realistic and balanced approach, while taking into account the capabilities of all involved actors. Sixth, the primacy of political solutions to conflict need to be reflected in the mandates of UN PKOs. It has to be done by providing good offices and setting a conducive environment for dialogue between the relevant actors. In this regard, UN peacekeeping missions are responsible for upholding the principles as enshrined in the UN Charter of equal rights and self-determination of peoples, particularly those under foreign occupation. Let me conclude, Mr. Chair, by expressing Algeria's readiness to contribute to peacekeeping efforts. Algeria is ready to put at the disposal of the UN and the international community its knowledge and expertise in the maintenance of international peace and security. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Algeria